So I want to double click because Jake, you have an incredible background, and I was kind of hoping, how did you arrive here? Like, why does this resonate for you? Why did we like put our heads together for like 2 years before we started doing it? Like, why did we stick with this? Like, what was in it for you?
Okay, well, I can give you the long version that nobody wants to hear, and I can give you the short version without context. So I'm gonna let's ride a medium-sized wave on this one.
Medium size guy.
I had a couple flow state experiences as a kid, elementary school age. Couple times, I grew up in the 70s as a young kid and in the 80s as a teenager. And so we were a little wilder then, but I was a terrible basketball player. I was never good at basketball. About the only thing I was pretty good at defense. I was always a tenacious defensive player, but I had no offensive skills. But a couple of times, there were days where I couldn't miss couple days where I was on and it felt great. And I was like, how am I doing this? It feels really good. I know I'm not this good. I know I'm really terrible. And then the next day we'd have a pickup game and then somebody would pick me first because they thought I was a good player, but I really wasn't. And that was a disaster. Another time happened in a very long, I went to a tennis camp as probably an early teen, 12 or 13. And again, I'm terrible at tennis. I was a D1 athlete at Penn State, but that's a different story. I'm not a bad athlete, but not good at tennis. Did a week of tennis. And at the end of that week, I played a match with a guy who was much better than me. And we were both in a flow state, and we had it was over 30 deuce to the game for the set. We battled for a long, long, long time. And eventually I got out of flow. I talked myself out of it. I lost the game. I saw the guy like 20 years later. He still remembered that game. It was fun. It was fun. Anyway, Ian George, if you're out there, this is me here. Fast forward to played a little D1 ball, not really good. I'd already moved on to different interests. I didn't make the leap from being a very captain of my high school team to a D1 level because I didn't have the mental aspect, but I got to play at that level. I got to travel.
Oh,
I made the traveling squad at that level. I played in a lot of games, even as a
what sport?
freshman.
Is that tennis?
Lacrosse, lacrosse.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. That makes sense.
Lacrosse. And then I went to Japan after graduating from college. I taught English there and ended up staying for 5 years, studied martial arts, and I also studied shiatsu, which is the introduction to my
Wow.
healing aspect. And that guy was a Zen master. Mishima sensei, my shiatsu sensei, was a Zen master, and I started getting into the ancient Japanese literature, and the samurai and the Zen masters discovered flow state. There's a Zen master named Takuan Soho who wrote a book called The Unfettered Mind, who talks about how in a combat situation with a samurai, sword on sword duel, how to maintain your flow state and how the instant you break flow, that's when, and he talked about a hair's breadth difference between life and death. So you're talking about a vomit level incidents. Those guys battled, and Taekwondo Soho was a teacher of a swordsman named Miyamoto Musashi. Joe Rogan talks about
Yeah.
Musashi. Musashi's got a couple books. Everybody talks about his Book of Five Rings, which is a business classic, but I think that by far the best Musashi book, and then I'll kick it back to you, but the best Musashi book was an autobiography written by an author by the name of A.G. Yoshikawa, who talks about the progression of Musashi's mind from being pretty much a cocky teen thug. He was a thug. He was a thug like a thug life thug would be, but in the 1500s in Japan, to a fierce warrior who was a little on the dark side of flow, to a warrior who kind of reached a type of an enlightenment. And after his 30th duel, sword to sword, this is documented history, real human stuff, witnessed by hundreds and hundreds of people. This is a real thing. He realized, I can't lose. I'm in this flow state. It's impossible for me to lose. And it took him 30 more duels where he was death matched with 30 more people before he realized, I can't lose. So I have to put my sword down, because if I keep carrying this sword around, around, I'm going to be challenged by people and I'm going to kill them. And then he became what was the equivalent of like the governor of a big state like Texas or Pennsylvania or California. Musashi turned his sword into a plowshare and worked for peace in that country. So anyway, I guess that was a bigger wave than I thought was planning on riding, but that's kind of
Well,
like my origin story.
I love it.
And then surfing for me, and now most recently really playing music, because I do that a lot more than
Yeah.
I
Let me
surf these
pause this.
days.
First of all, you
Yeah.
opened the loop to us brilliantly. I'm on the edge of my seat. What is the name of the Musashi book?
It's called Musashi by Eiji Yoshikawa, just
Yeah,
titled Musashi. It's
gotcha.
it's a
Jocko
biography.
Jocko
Yeah.
Willink talks about this book a lot.